we're not talking about metal that is placed into the system through the post-harvest process. We're talking about pre-harvest live animal. And now what we see is we're not taking our eye off of microbial hazards at all. But now we need to also be addressing these physical hazards. We've conducted an RFP that is looking at what technologies can be utilized that can actually detect foreign material, metal, in this case, while the animal's still alive.
Welcome to MeatsPad. It's a platform dedicated to share breakthrough knowledge that is accessible to the global meat industry. On each episode, you'll have the opportunity to listen and learn from meat specialists and professionals about the whole meat industry. This podcast is brought to you by Ultrasource, equipment and supplies for the meat and food industry. Viscofan collagen casings, the best alternative to animal gut casings for a better taste and sustainable sausage making.
Hello, meat folks. Welcome back to the MeatsPad podcast. It's your happy, hungry host, Phil Bass. Back with another meat enthusiast. A meat enthusiast we've had on a number of times before, and it just makes good sense because of some timing, of some reports that have been brought to the industry. And so with that, I want to welcome back Dr. Mandy Carr Johnson with National Cattlemen's Beef Association.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks for being here. Yeah,
it's good to be back.
Of course. So, so the timing is pretty good. I've had our team at University of Idaho were fortunate enough to be invited to be part of what's called the National Beef Quality Audit. This was a few years ago, but the reports are now finally being published and we're getting out in the journals, which is great. And so I think it's an important time to truly, let's get the information out there. Let's talk about it. And so the National Beef Quality Audit, it's something that many folks in the beef industry are aware of, but maybe not all. And so maybe you can lay the groundwork as to what it is, how did it come about, and where are we right now?
So one of the great opportunities that the Checkoff has through its work with NCBA is to conduct what we call the National Beef Quality Audit. And it's a project that started back late 80s, around 1990 timeline. First one published in 91, and it was an opportunity to look at what were the things we were doing well, the things that needed to be improvement, needed to be documented, and then put into perspective what are the lost opportunities by some of these capturing data on these things so we could start moving the needle. Literally, in some cases. How can we make improvements, particularly related to quality, and what did different audiences say quality was to them? Yeah. So.
Well, and so you mentioned you just mentioned moving the needle, and I chuckle at that, and so does Dr. Mandy Carr, because the beef quality audit led to literally moving the needle, and so maybe expand a little bit on that and how big of an impact the beef quality audit brought to the industry in truly making product that much better and possibly safer.
Absolutely. When you look back at that original summary, executive summary, and the papers that came from it, the authors really were able to document that injection site lesions were one of the critical things that needed to be tackled. We had to make improvements on that, and we were losing product because of abscesses and other defects. And so one of the key things that came to that was then having leaders, producer leaders and industry leaders and the scientists together and say, okay, here is how much product we are losing. And if we would just move the injections for whether it was antibiotics and other pharmaceuticals or anything
vaccinations,
else, any of those routine handling and processing and management, move that up to an area that had less value. So get it up in the neck from putting it in the top butt or anywhere along the top, honestly. So really then taking that and being able to quantify it and then taking it into producer education, BQA trainings with producers, and spent decades. We have leaders in this industry spending decades to really teach that. And then over time, now we don't see that as being a significant finding in that report. So you can make a difference by quantifying an issue and then working on an education platform over time, you really can't make a difference.
Yeah.
So we have a few of those that we probably need to work on now.
Well, that is that is such an important point bringing up, and just to remind our medium, especially medium to small size processors who maybe are in regular communication with their producers, talk about how important it is to as simply as just moving that injection sites, because we're giving cattle injections one way or another in most cases. We need to give them vaccinations. We need to prepare them for a healthy life so that we have quality and high quality and safe beef to consume later on. The reality is, and I still see it occasionally, but it's not nearly as what it was at one time, is you get what's called an injection site lesion. And for folks who maybe haven't seen this, it's literally scar tissue in the shape of the needle itself in many cases, just kind of a broader section, but it's scar tissue. It doesn't look good in a steak. Doesn't look good in a roast, and in case the needle may have been dirty, because sometimes we inject one animal and we go right to the next one, that could lead to an abscess, and that's even a worse condition. And so by moving that injection site from, say, a real easy spot, the rump, right, which does have higher value, or another great easy spot right over the back, but remember what you get over the back. Strip loins, ribeyes. We don't want to be damaging that to an area in this triangle of the neck, and even more so, talking about more subcutaneous type injections, less muscular. Right. You're lessening that chance of high quality product being damaged, right? So
I think we all want to make sure that, the consumer eating experience is something that we want to make sure we preserve. Yeah. Producers have worked very hard, and many people throughout the industry, to continue to improve that eating experience. So we don't want to jeopardize it by a consumer either seeing something or biting into something that would cause them to have a negative eating experience, and then they move away from selecting beef as a protein or protein in general. We don't want to offer that opportunity for them to have a reason to move away.
So you mentioned a couple things. First off, the consumer experience, and it's not when they put it in their mouth. It starts at the grocery store and them just looking at it. If it doesn't look good, they're not going to buy it. Right?
That's right. It has to be something that's visually appealing, and we know color, shelf life, many of those things are your first entry to a consumer. So you don't want to start off with breaking that trust at that point of just what do they visually see.
The National Beef Quality Audit, I like to explain it as a barometer reading, and it's a snapshot in time, really, that happens. But maybe explain just a little bit about how in depth it goes. What's really happening? And I can talk all about it because my team was there. But you tell us, because it's your project.
Well, I think, it's one of those pieces. I had the privilege of working on a quality audit when I was in graduate school.
Yep.
And after, in that opportunity to learn from students at other universities who were even more intimately involved in the collecting of the data, and really then moving into when I was teaching it to students at a university, and then now being on as part of NCBA and seeing the evolution over time of the methodology and the questions, but then also just the collaboration it takes to do something that big. And it's a project that is in partnership with the Beef Quality Assurance team, and really looking at some of the meat scientists that typically do things like, meat science research, carcass data collection, are some of those that are doing that work. So it gives us the opportunity to go every year a little bit more data collection this last time over across the country. So really tried to stretch out the sites, work with other partner universities to collect that data, but looking at live animal data, looking at implant, carcass data, but then also interviews with stakeholders all up and down the supply chain. And part of that is to determine what are the most important things at all those different areas throughout the supply chain, including regulatory and those that are critically important to our whole system that are involved in the government process too. So it gives us that indication, and also how does it shift over time, so that we can also then evaluate, okay, what are we seeing, and then what's the value of that, and then where in the supply chain can we make the difference?
Yeah. How can we continue to make improvements? That's the entire objective, really, is to see what is happening. Are there areas for improvements, and can we do that? Yeah. Well, and you've been very humble about the project, but it's literally about a dozen universities that tackle this thing across the country, and these are you have to kind of target the ones. Not only for regionality purposes, but also do they have a relationship with the packing houses? And so we're really leveraging the relationships that are built with the universities that continue to do research within the slaughter plants. And not only is it good for the project itself, but it gives more opportunity for students to be in on site in the industry, seeing what's really going on. I mean, it's a win all across the board. It
really, to me, one of my favorite things about it is, yes, the data and the project, but the opportunity that we had this last quality audit cycle to involve more universities. Mm-hmm. We talk, all through RMC and as we go about the rest of the year about who are the next generation that are going to take our places in leading research or being involved in the industry and continue to improve beef quality, safety, all these different factors. If we don't expose students to it, how in the world would they pick this career? Yeah, exactly. So that opportunity through many programs that we have through Meat Science, whether it's in the classroom, through research, through judging, how do we provide that opportunity for students to have exposure and then understand, the new ideas are going to come from the next generation. So we need the experience to work with the new eyes to bring together something for how are we going to actually change something in the future.
Right. Yeah. This is about approximately every 5 years. This audit is conducted. Again, it's just a barometer reading at that moment, but still is very reflective of what's going on in the industry. And it's a massive amount of data that is collected, which is probably why, we definitely need additional universities being brought into it. And it's great that was part of the objective of this last one. It was the first time I was involved, first time the University of Idaho was involved. And it got us into a number of different packing houses. And it's not just, say, the fed beef, the young beef. We're also looking at the cows and the culls and bulls and things like that. So the part of the industry that maybe is lesser known, but is still very impactful. And so maybe you can speak a little bit about that side of things. And were there any points that were brought about and noticeable things that we need to address?
So I think it was, over time, there were a couple of quality audit cycles where we would do the fed, and then we would have the cull, cow, and bull audit. And then that was more of like a pulse in time it would happen. So they didn't occur simultaneously. And then, over time, the supply changes. And the importance of having that data from both the fed side and the cull side were really important to bring together. So when we had the opportunity in this cycle to do both segments of the industry and bring then an overarching look at what are we seeing in the data, and are we seeing some similarities, are we seeing some differences? And one of the things that is still will always be critical, and really people like the state BQA coordinators have really worked to move injection sites and help reduce that. That role is critically needed in the whole industry because they're engaged with the producer on a regular basis. So we know that movement can happen. One of the things we saw that might surprise people, because it's something we talked about years ago and now we're talking about again, is foreign material.
Foreign material.
And that is needles, it is remote delivery devices or darts, and it is BBs. And the data shows that we are seeing foreign material in every plant that was surveyed, in whether it be a cull cow or a fed plant. We're seeing it at every single plant reported it. And we need to double down.
Yeah. I mean, so just to remind folks out there, I mean, this is not something that we're. It's not something that we're here to chastise, but it is definitely something that we need to be very aware of because, and honestly, it's a point that has been brought about. It's not something we were hoping to see, but now that we're aware, we can address it, right? So foreign material, and in all of those cases you mentioned, they're essentially metallic objects of some sort. So thankfully, all of these packing houses do have metal detectors, and in some cases all the way down to X-ray that can pick out the most minute piece of foreign material. So the likelihood of this going out and somebody biting into it is extremely low, extremely rare. We need to make it zero to be real, right? And so some of that is definitely kind of come back to, you mentioned the BQA, which is Beef Quality Assurance teams that are all across the country teaching cattle producers about injection sites and things like that. You mentioned remote delivery devices, and so these are essentially dart guns that are used for maybe in open range scenarios. You got an animal that's maybe has a less than desirable temperament, and you can't get close to it, right? But still needs it. Maybe it's sick. It still needs to be addressed. We got to take care of it. And so we have dart gun scenarios that can deliver the medicine. But there's the question: it went into the animal. Did it come back out? And if you're a cattle producer out there listening, be very diligent about this. Think about it in the case, say you took some animals in, you had them slaughtered, you brought that meat home, you fed it to your family, your child bit into a piece of metal. That's scary. And we have to think about the people who are out there that maybe know very little about the meat industry, almost nothing, right? Especially the cattle industry. Don't give them a reason to distrust.
That's right.
That's what we're here for. And so I'm grateful that the project identified that. And yes, I'm very familiar with this. We need to stop it. So what are we doing to stop it?
Since 1883, Ultrasource has been a trusted supplier to the food industry. Ultrasource provides superior kill floor, processing, packaging, and labeling equipment and operational supplies.
I think that's, to your point, knowing it's there and quantifying it, it's like now it's time to take action. One is we're not talking about metal that is placed into the system through the post-harvest process. No. We're talking about pre-harvest.
Yeah, live animal.
So what we're doing is we've, as part of the checkoff, there's been a long time dedication to safety. And we've focused, obviously, for good reason, on microbial hazard.
Yeah.
And so a considerable amount of resources and effort and people that have really made monumental progress in those areas for the industry have really put forth that effort. And now what we see is we're not taking our eye off of microbial hazards at all. But now we need to also be addressing these physical hazards that could be potentially a challenge. So we've conducted an RFP, and we looked at ideas with our advisory committee, and they've selected a research project that is looking at what technologies can be utilized that can actually detect foreign material, metal, in this case, while the animal's still alive, while it's still moving. Wow. Is it walking through a chute before it goes into the feedlot, comes off of a truck, a trailer, into a feed yard? Can we tell if it has foreign material at that point in time? What about when it leaves the feed yard? Yeah. Can we tell? Yeah. And does that allow opportunity to know, one, do we need to pull those animals together and we need to process separately? Do we need to slow it down? Do we need to mark, target, identify those so we know how to manage it through carcass fabrication or other things? So it will send signals upstream that our intent is that we can identify it in the live animal. Well,
and that's absolutely critical. First off, it's the right thing to do for the animal. There's no reason that they should have a needle or a BB, like you say, and we're not entirely sure how that happens. I mean, there's a lot of cattle that are out on rangeland, and maybe a hunter had a mistaken identity situation. Either way, there's a piece of metal in that animal, and it should not be there. Okay. The other thing that I could envision is that our beef quality assurance teams not only talk about injection placement, but let's talk about just needle hygiene and needle use. And you can't mistake the fact that maybe you broke a needle. Find it.
Get it out.
It's good for the animal. It's not going to feel very good for it. Yeah. So get it out. And think about that final product. Producers out there, if you are a live animal producer, always, always, always keep in mind somebody has to eat this eventually. And it may indeed be your family. So make sure that you're producing something that you are willing to feed to your family. And oh my goodness, I'm glad we're finding this. So let's address it. Sounds like the checkoff is focusing on that, which is fantastic.
It is, and I think once, like anything, identify it, quantify it, work to reduce it, and then by the next time we have a quality audit, let's see marked improvement.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That's fantastic. Hey, let's talk a little bit about some of the. I mean, that's absolutely an area that is that we need to talk about. But what are some of the other measures out there? And I like to really think about like the marbling measures, right? We're in the packing houses. We're standing there with USDA graders. How's marbling doing these days?
But it's one of those opportunities that we've seen more prime and choice than we've ever seen. You see opportunity to give, back in college we were taught more marbling means more insurance for a consumer eating experience, no matter how they prepare it, a little bit more insurance policy. Yeah. So a great time for a consumer eating experience from the standpoint of if we can give them a quality product, then eating experience. 90% of consumers say that they have had a positive eating experience on steaks and ground beef at home or at a restaurant. We haven't had that high.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. So we don't want to do anything to mess that up.
Yeah, well, and I'm going to applaud the Beef Checkoff for leading a lot of that. So thank you. I want to end on that high note because for those who, if you're listening to this, you're a meathead, hopefully, or have interest in, you're an amateur meathead. Know that marbling is a good thing. And we continue to see an improvement in this last beef quality audit. We're at 12% marbling, something ridiculously high anyway. Yeah. Considering that in the past, we have never had double digits. So it's pretty incredible. So 12% prime, the rest pretty much being choice. We're at less than, 15% select. It's unbelievable. And so big changes are coming in the industry. And I thank the Checkoff for doing that, for leading that, and we'll see where this goes in the future.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity to have scientists that are interested in meat science and looking to help improve what we present to consumers. So great partnership between producers and scientists in the industry, as well as industry leadership across the supply chain to really address questions and make the product better. So folks, if they're out there and they want to get some of this data to digest themselves, where would some of this be published or available? So beefresearch.org is the site that we host with the checkoff research information across safety, product quality, human nutrition, sustainability, and consumer market research. So you can go there, and any topic that you have interest in, just put it in the search bar, and we'll pull up research that has been conducted on any of those topics, and then research always in the field. So more coming out every month. If you're a meat nerd like me, and you go to beefresearch.org, you will be there for hours. There is an incredible amount of information. Like you said, it's not just the beef quality audit. It's many of the other projects that the Checkoff has funded over the time, as well as nutritional information. And did you say that there's also the safety research there as well? That's right. Yeah, the pre-harvest beef safety work, as well as our consumer market research. So all things really in that. And then also, over on bqa.org, if you're interested in materials and information on beef quality assurance, past quality audits, you can find them in those places. So if you're a plant operator and you're looking maybe for some of that food safety, beef related meat safety questions, check out beefresearch.org. That'd be a great place to start if you have any questions. And just be curious, go check it out anyway. There's always something good to see. So. Always something new. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Dr. Carr Johnson, thank you so much for joining us again. And let's do this again sometime. Let's do it again sometime. All right. Excellent. All right.